In the early hours of June 6, local time, the Kakhovka Dam in the Russian-occupied area of Kherson Oblast in southern Ukraine burst suddenly, and its storage capacity of 18 billion cubic meters flowed from the Dnieper River reservoir to the downstream historic cities of Kherson and Zapo. The Rozhye nuclear power plant and countless large and small residential areas were swept away, and it is estimated that more than 30,000 people have been affected in the areas controlled by Russia and Ukraine. Immediately, the two sides accused each other of being the culprit. On the afternoon of June 6, Hubert Johnson, an internationally renowned water conservancy expert and professor of the School of Civil Engineering at the University of Queensland, pointed out in an interview with China News Weekly that it was the end of spring. Major reservoirs are nearing their all-time high levels, and Kakhovka is no exception. This also means that the downstream flooding caused by this disaster will be more severe than in other seasons, likely to last for more than a week. And until the flood recedes, there is no way to repair the dam. Johnson further stated that the currently circulating videos and images of the damaged dam all show that the concrete core layer of the dam structure has been damaged, which means that it cannot be a natural event, but based on the existing evidence, it is difficult to judge the damage of the dam. What kind of attack or explosion the body was destroyed by? At noon on the 6th local time, the TASS news agency quoted Leontiev, the head of the occupation authority of the new Kakhovka city, as saying that the Kakhovka Dam and hydropower station are still collapsing, and water is being discharged uncontrollably. On June 6, in the Kherson region, the Kakhovka Dam was severely damaged, and water poured down from the gap. Figure/Visual China. About 1,200 West Lakes poured down. After the Kakhovka Dam burst, a number of authoritative media have confirmed some breach videos and images circulating on social media. According to these relatively reliable image data, the dam was attacked and damaged on June 5, and a large-scale damaged breach appeared on the morning of June 6. According to information from Uzbekistan, the breach began at 2:50 a.m. local time, 8:50 a.m. Beijing time on the 6th, and the peak water volume may have appeared at 11 a.m., and then the water level of the reservoir dropped at a rate of 5 centimeters per hour. The Kakhovka Dam and the Kakhovka Hydroelectric Power Station were built in 1956. The dam is about 3 kilometers long and spans the Dnieper River. Behind it is a huge reservoir and the upper reaches of the Dnieper River. The city of Novakhovka was built on the basis of a dam and a hydroelectric power station. At the end of spring, since May, the water level of the Kakhovka Dam has reached the highest value of 17.5 meters in a year, and some surrounding villages and towns have been flooded before the disaster. All this means that, at the time of the attack, the Kakhovka Dam was close to its maximum capacity of 18 billion cubic meters. According to international standards, a reservoir exceeding 1 billion cubic meters is considered a super-large reservoir. Western media often compare the storage capacity of the dam with the Great Salt Lake in the United States, the largest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere. If compared with the West Lake, the storage capacity of the Kakhovka Dam is equivalent to about 1,200 West Lakes. According to the data of the Management Committee of the West Lake Scenic Area, the capacity of the West Lake Reservoir is about 14 million cubic meters. Hubert Johnson pointed out to China News Weekly that another feature of the Kakhovka Dam is that it is not high. If we are dealing with a 100-meter, 150-meter high dam failure, the flood will be very fast, but the cycle of the flood will be relatively short, while the Kakhovka Dam is only 20 to 30 meters high. Meters, which means that the downstream has a longer time to avoid danger, and the casualties may be reduced, but the flood will last for a longer period. The TASS news agency quoted information from officials of the occupying authority of Novi Kakhovka as saying that after the dam burst, about 300 nearby residents had been evacuated. The head of the authority, Leontiev, also said that for safety reasons, some blocks in the area have been cut off. Officials from the Russian-occupied Kherson authorities revealed that 80 settlements and about 22,000 people in the controlled area may be affected by the disaster. On the right bank of the Dnieper River, Ukrainian Interior Ministry advisor Grashenko said that about 16,000 residents of Kherson may be directly affected by the flood. In addition, the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam will have longer-term consequences. The first is the water crisis. Johnson pointed out that judging from the volume of the reservoir, the destruction of the dam may cause difficulties in the water supply in Kherson, Zaporizhia and other states in southern Ukraine and Crimea in the next 6 to 12 months. After Crimea joined Russia in 2014, the Ukrainian government cut off 90% of the water supply to residents of the Crimean Peninsula by blocking the water source of the Dnieper River leading to the North Crimea Canal. Crimean authorities later said the blockade had cost the region more than 150 billion rubles in economic losses. Next is the electricity crisis. Apart from the main body of the dam, the Kakhovka hydropower station was completely destroyed beyond repair due to the explosion of the engine room from the inside, Ukraine's state broadcaster said. More importantly, the lower water level will also affect the operation of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. The Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is about 200 kilometers downstream of the Kakhovka dam. Both the International Atomic Energy Agency and the nuclear power plant pointed out that the breach of the dam will not immediately affect the cooling water supply of the nuclear power plant, because the nuclear power plant itself has a cooling pool with a diameter of 2 to 3 kilometers, which is currently full of water. But as the water in the cooling ponds evaporates over time, neither the turbines nor the power plant would be able to operate after satisfying demand for several months if the water supply that would have been drawn from upstream reservoirs could not be topped up. Finally, it is still difficult for all parties to assess the impact of the destruction of the dam on the ecological environment. The Ukrainian side stated that the ecological disaster goes far beyond the Ukrainian borders and at least affects the entire Black Sea. Yermak, director of the Ukrainian president's office, said in general terms that this is the world's largest man-made disaster in decades and will have a negative impact on the lives of hundreds of thousands of people in the next few years. The British Guardian pointed out as an example that the water level of rivers in most parts of southern Ukraine has dropped, which will destroy agricultural irrigation in this granary area. Hubert Johnson pointed out that, logically speaking, a dam breach would not be a long-term problem, because once the flood water receded, the dam would be repaired by dumping stones and concrete blocks to plug the breach, maybe only one project period before and after Moon. But he is worried that it is not engineering factors that affect the restoration of the dam, but that it is only possible to start construction in a safe environment. How to avoid the next Kakhovka? Why did the Kakhovka dam burst? Both Russia and Ukraine hold their own opinions. The TASS news agency quoted Russian sources as saying that the dam was destroyed by the Ukrainian army's shelling, and the Ukrainian army may have used American-made multiple rocket launchers. The Russian side also said that Kiev's bombing of the Kakhovka hydropower station was sabotage. Russian officials also called it a terrorist attack, and the gate valve on the dam collapsed due to shelling, causing a breach. On the other hand, the Ukrainian military said that the dam and hydropower station were blown up by the Russian occupation authorities from within. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said it was the fault of Russian terrorists who must be expelled from every corner of Ukraine. One question raised by some people in the industry is that the highest water level between 17 and 17.5 meters before the dam breach was 1 meter higher than the average highest water level in recent wet seasons. Before the breach, the floods in the surrounding villages and towns were also more severe than in previous years. Sometimes the water rose by 30 centimeters a day. The Guardian stated that this may indicate a certain degree of premeditation. The European Union, NATO, and their member states have also condemned Russia's attack. Michel, president of the European Council, said that he was shocked by this. Destruction of civilian infrastructure is clearly a war crime. We will hold Russia and its proxies accountable. German Chancellor Scholz said the destruction of the dam marked a new dimension of warfare. Within a few days after the start of the special military operation of the Russian army in February 2022, the city of Nova Kakhovka, the Kakhovka hydropower station and the dam were all under the control of the Russian army. In July of the same year, the Ukrainian army began to plan a major counteroffensive on the southern front, and organized several attacks in an attempt to recapture the dam and the city of New Kakhovka. Since then, Russia and Ukraine have continued to accuse each other of attempting to sabotage the dam. In November last year, Russian troops withdrew from the right bank of the Dnieper River in Kherson Oblast. At that time, Russia attributed the withdrawal of troops to the possible attack on the dam by the Ukrainian army, which would cause flooding and civilian casualties, and threaten the safety of Russian troops on both sides of the strait. Prior to this, the Russian-occupied Kherson authorities had begun to evacuate more than 110,000 residents on the right bank of the Dnieper River in October on the grounds that the dam might be attacked. At the same time, the Ukrainian side accused the Russian side of having placed explosives in the dam and was ready to destroy it at any time. Both Russia and Ukraine are signatories to the four Geneva Conventions, and they should abide by the principle of distinction in armed conflicts not to use civilian facilities like the Novaya Kakhovka Dam as military targets, and observe that attacks should not cause undue harm to civilians and civilians. The principle of proportionality for damage to civil facilities. However, the damage to the natural environment appeared early in the Ukraine crisis. As early as in the 2014 Donbass War, the warring parties frequently exchanged fire in coal and steel production areas, resulting in the complete paralysis of environmental protection facilities in mining areas and heavy industries, and the indiscriminate flow of harmful wastewater. In 2015, the United Nations estimated that the cost of environmental restoration caused by the first year of war in the Donbas region alone was as high as $30 million. Today, the international community is more worried about where will become the next Kakhovka Dam. If the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant becomes the next target of an asymmetric attack, the natural environmental disaster it will cause will be longer term and irreversible. At the end of March this year, thanks to the repeated efforts of the International Atomic Energy Agency and the international community, Russia and Ukraine finally made a breakthrough in negotiations on the safety of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. That is, the two sides first agreed on a basic principle: under no circumstances should attack the nuclear power plant, and you cannot launch an attack from the nuclear power plant area. However, with the advent of a new round of counteroffensive by the Ukrainian army, the process of talking while fighting has come to a standstill since May. In this regard, Korchinov, Director General of the Russian International Affairs Committee, recently accepted an interview with China News Weekly and repeatedly called on Russia and Ukraine to maintain talking while fighting and not to attack civilian targets or energy facilities. Agreement on specific rules of war, such as promoting the evacuation of civilians, and setting the bottom line for future conflicts. I plan to go to the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant next week. Now it is a must. Grossi, Director General of the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency, called on the late June 6 that all parties to the conflict must not destroy the cooling pool of the nuclear power plant.